In today's media landscape, remakes are commonplace. Whether it's a genuine attempt to revive something people loved, a studio attempting to make a quick buck off an old IP, or it's sometimes the noble cause of we can fix the sins of the past, which is an admirable goal, until the remake shows up and commits brand new sins in 4K. We can all generally agree most remakes don't live up to their original counterparts. Every once in a while one does, and even in the rarest of cases can surpass it. However, the subject of today's recap critique, Trigun Stampede, is a remake that, in my opinion, barely manages to scratch the surface of what the original Trigun brought to anime. That said, even though I don't think it's as good as the original, I do think it's still worth watching, even if you're a diehard fan who has strong feelings about Vash's hair. So, I'm going to lay out the history and context, and then recap the events of this series, and along the way I'll hit what I liked, what I didn't like, and why this show had me oscillating between who signed off on this, and wait, did I like that? Now, I'm not going to recap every single event from the original Trigun, but I am going to briefly run through the history and creation of the original series, both the manga and the anime, because it matters for why Stampede feels the way it does. Trigun has a more unusual manga history than most series. Yasuhiro Nightow is the mangaka behind it. He was born in Yokohama, and growing up he pulled inspiration from a multitude of different comics and manga before he ever started making his own. But before becoming a full-time mangaka, he studied social science and majored in media studies at Hosei University. During those formative years, he drew manga as a hobby, not as a "this is my future career." He did create some doujinshi, which translates roughly to self-published works, but nothing that was taking over his life yet. After graduating, he worked selling apartments for Sekisu House for 3 years, then quit to draw full-time. His first manga was a one-shot based on the video game franchise Samurai Spirits. He also worked on a story titled Call XXXX, published in Super Jump magazine. Then, in 1995, he submitted Trigun to Takuma Shoten's magazine Shonen Captain, and it began serialization 2 months later. However, Shonen Captain got cancelled only 2 years after that, which left the story unfinished. Nightow was approached by Shonen Gahosha, the publisher of Young King Hours, to work on new projects. The problem was, Trigun wasn't done, and he hated leaving it that way. He agreed to work with them, but he requested that he be allowed to continue Trigun. They agreed, and the series continued under a slightly different name, Trigun Maximum. Starting in 1997, Maximum ran until 2007 for 14 volumes. The anime adaptation came in 1998 by Madhouse, and it ran from April to September with 26 episodes. When it got dubbed and aired on Cartoon Network, it rose in popularity hard, and the hype lasted long enough that we got an animated movie in 2010, Trigun Badlands Rumble. Nightow went on to work on other projects too, including character designs for the video game and eventual anime adaptation of Gungrave, his manga series Blood Blockade Battlefront, and more. After 2010, Trigun felt complete. It had its run, it became iconic, and then it settled into legacy status. At one point, it was popular enough that even Hot Topic, no affiliation or sponsor, was selling the iconic red coat Vash wears. Trigun was a sensation in the US. Nightow's futuristic western was original, it was fun, and it had a vibe. Nobody else was really doing the same way. And one thing I want to note here. The original anime was very faithful to Nightow's work. I recently bought the deluxe edition of the manga, leather-bound hardback, oversized panels, the whole "this costs too much but I deserve it" joy experience, and it makes it really obvious why it blew up. You can see the detail Nightow packed into every panel, and you can also see how closely the anime followed his designs and story beats when translating it from page to screen. For the uninitiated, Trigun is the story of Vash the Stampede, aka the humanoid typhoon. With a bounty of $60 billion double dollars, the currency in this world, he wanders a desert planet called No Man's Land, full of weirdos, towns barely hanging on, and constant "how are you people even alive" energy. Humanity left Earth after discovering intergalactic space travel, wanted to find another Earth-like planet to colonize, and ended up crash landing on No Man's Land. Vash is followed by 2 women working for an insurance society, basically trying to keep him from causing further incidents. But Because his bounty is insane, trouble finds him no matter what. And to make things worse, or better, depending on how much you enjoy chaos, Vash is a pacifist who doesn't want to hurt anyone. Midway through the series, Vash gets hunted by a group of people with supernatural abilities. Their goal is to deliver him to his twin brother, Million's Knives, who wants to wipe out humanity because of how humans treated him and Vash for being different. Because surprise, Vash isn't exactly human. The climax of the series is when Vash confronts his brother Knives in a one-on-one battle using weapons that appear to be regular guns, and were developed by Knives over 100 years prior. Knives and Vash have the unique ability to combine their bodies with their guns, making weapons of mass destruction. Vash ultimately bests Knives and tries to reconcile with him and show him what humanity is actually like, as opposed to his distorted view. That's the original Trigun in a nutshell. Messy, iconic, and honestly a wild ride. I love it. Now, taking off the rose-tinted glasses, the original anime had issues. The art could be inconsistent, parts of the story were rushed, and the ending was mediocre, if I'm being 100% honest. Something to note is that obviously the manga was still being written at the time the anime concluded. So this is not the true ending of the Trigun story, but it's what we got at the time. The movie, Trigun Badlands Rumble, that came many years later, didn't fix the ending either. But it added to the world, had more grounded artwork, and gave a fresh perspective. Badlands Rumble was a great addition to the series, and was very much unexpected. It was also the reason that Stampede was greenlit. Thanks to the reception it received being overwhelmingly positive, the studio decided that they would like to remake the series, and in 2017, production started. Trigun Stampede aims to recreate Trigun in a new way, pay homage to the original manga and anime, tell a new version of the story, and also address parts of the broader Trigun narrative that weren't fully represented before. The goal was to bring in new fans without requiring prior knowledge, which sounds great in theory. In practice, it creates problems right out of the gate. I'll get into those when the recap starts. Stampede spent about 5 years in production and released in 2022 to what I'd call mostly positive reviews, with Nightow approving of the overall story and agreeing that the writers got the concept of the new Trigun. They went with 3D CG animation, basically betting that the core of Trigun was strong enough to survive a format change. The animators studied Nightow's original artwork to ground the new show in something that they still felt connected to the source. As of the time of recording this, there's the follow-up that started airing in January 2026 called Trigun Stargaze, which raises the question, if you're a fan of the original, is Stampede and then Stargaze worth your time? Well, that's what I'm trying to answer here. Now, let me be real. I saw promotional images for Stampede before I ever watched it. I was scrolling through some social media app and saw a familiar character, but also not familiar at all, and realized I was looking at Vash the Stampede. I was appalled. Vash looked like a complete f***boy. The 3D CG was off-putting, and there was some other random character that I had no idea who it was. My first reaction was basically, who is this man and what have they done with my red-coated needle noggin? I knew the series existed when it launched, but I refused to watch it for a while. I've rewatched the original since Stampede aired, but for this video, I finally committed, because I wanted to know if I'd have any interest in watching Stargaze. So I watched it. And now it's time to go through the events and talk mad shit about them, and give credit where credit is due. Now, I'd like to interject a spoiler warning here. I know that I've already spoiled the original Trigun, and I'm going to be spoiling Stampede as I get into this recap. But for those of you that may have missed the spoiler warning at the beginning, here's another one for you. Episode 1 opens by wasting no time. We're immediately shown the Seed's spaceships traveling through space. The original series took several episodes to reveal that piece of plot. Stampede just throws it at you instantly like, here, space, deal with it. We meet a young Vash, already showing his love for humanity. He says good morning to the cryo-sleep passengers by name, which is actually a nice touch. But the routine gets interrupted by an explosion on the ship. Vash finds Rim and Nai, who is Knives, but his name is Nai, which is apparently 100% exclusive to this version. Rim takes the twins to an escape pod. Nai tells her to come with them. Rim then says she loves them and tells them to try and stay alive, and ejects the pod, sacrificing herself to try and save as many people as possible. And listen, in concept, that should hit. The problem is, this plays with zero emotion, because Rim is on screen for like 3 minutes. Vash is devastated, Nai is stoic, and the pod autopilots like it's got NASA-level pathing as it dodges debris. And the show is treating this like it's a massive emotional gut punch. But without the context of other media, I didn't care. I felt nothing, and I almost sided more with Knives, who also feels nothing, because at least that matched how little the show gave me to work with. Also, I already hate the character designs here. The twins' bowl haircuts look like someone cut them with a ruler from across the room. Rim looks like a generic black-haired lady, and if they didn't say her name, I genuinely might not have known who she was. Now, the 3D CG is smooth. It actually looks pretty good in motion, but I still wasn't vibing with it in this episode. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, surely they're going to revisit the childhood stuff later and give this more weight, right? Right? Because everything felt rushed, like they wanted to speedrun the entire Trigun experience in 12 episodes. And fun fact, when I researched after watching, I learned that they were trying to cram in Trigun Maximum stuff too, which explains why everything feels like it's sprinting downhill. We fast forward several years? The show doesn't say, but now the desert planet has cities, radios, newspapers, infrastructure, the whole deal. We're introduced to Meryl Strife and her partner in crime, Roberto. In this version, Meryl isn't a part of the Bernardelli Insurance Society. She's a rookie reporter, and Roberto is her superior. He keeps calling her newbie, and the show makes it painfully obvious he outranks her. Awesome. Love it. Not really. Roberto and Meryl are hunting down the humanoid typhoon to score a once-in-a-lifetime interview. Because, yeah, I'm sure this planet's journalists regularly interview criminals with massive bounties. That checks out. They bicker until their car breaks down in the most convenient spot imaginable, right where Vash is hanging around. Literally. He's strung up, left to die. Meryl sees he's alive and wants to cut him down. Vash jokes when his robotic arm comes off and laughs hysterically. Roberto, the voice of reason, says maybe don't bother, because there's probably a reason he's hanging there. Then the July police roll in on Thomases, bird-like creatures, and they have a wanted poster for Vash. Meryl and Roberto realize they just helped the guy worth $6 million double dollars. Wait, 6 million? Okay, sure, we'll come back to that. They cover for him because they want the interview. Meryl points the cops in the wrong direction, and off they go. Also, I need to say this. I hate that they gave Vash a super fancy prosthetic arm, and he just wears it out in the open. That seems like something people would steal immediately, especially if it's ancient lost technology. His spiky hair is now a mop top that looks more like Jack Doherty than it does Vash. His glasses don't have the same vibe. His coat is always pristine and has a big Project Seeds patch. I hate it. All of it. Anyway, Vash thanks Meryl for not turning him in and offers them the interview, but suggests they go to a nearby pub in Genora Rock. At the pub, we meet Rosa, a very pregnant bartender who recognizes Vash instantly. There's also a Brilliance Dynamite neon wanted poster in the background. Nice touch. Also, totally wasted on anyone who hasn't seen the original. Rosa explains Vash is basically the town hero. Last time he was there, he helped restore their plant. Unfortunately, their plant is malfunctioning again, so they need him to fix it. On the way, Meryl does an exposition dump about plants, because otherwise you'd need to already know what's happening. And honestly, even with the exposition, I was still sitting there like, what the hell is going on in this show? And we don't even have time to think about it too hard. The July cops show up and start beating the crap out of Vash. Then Roberto, for reasons unknown to God, starts to goad the captain into a duel with Vash for his honor. And I was practically yelling at my screen. 2 questions. Why is Roberto risking his neck to keep Vash from getting taken in? And why would the captain, who is literally there for the bounty, agree to a duel when he already has Vash in custody? So the captain agrees, and as they are about to begin the duel, this is where we get one of the first real Trigun moments instead of just cameos. Vash refuses to pull out his gun. Classic. Perfect. Well, almost. Because then Vash calls the duel boring. The captain agrees it is boring. He tosses his pistol aside and pulls out a rocket launcher. Then he fires it into the air. It's a cluster bomb. So now I'm watching a man attempting to collect a bounty by turning the bounty into ash, while also nuking the town, while also standing in the blast zone. Who signed off on this? Vash panics, draws his gun to stop the rockets, and he's out of bullets. Of course. He begs for a bullet. Rosa hands Meryl a single bullet. Meryl throws it up to the cliff. It gets shot out of the air before Vash can catch it. Vash scrambles, loads it at the last second, dodges some point-blank shots, does some gung-fu, pistol whips the captain, and then shoots a rock into fragments that ricochet through the descending rockets and detonates them midair. The July cops are subdued and sent packing. Roberto compliments Vash's skills. Vash plays it off as luck. Roberto drops the line that Vash is scared of something, and Vash stops dead and says, "I have a brother." We then get a flashback to young Vash and Knives arriving on the planet. Knives is laughing, saying he's done it. Vash says he killed everyone, and then Knives says Vash is his accomplice, so he's responsible too. Back to the present, Vash asks if they've heard the name Millions Knives. Cutting to a piano playing, hooded figure looks up and says, "You found him. Take me to him. I'll rip him from those parasites, and then I'll end them for good." And that's pretty much episode 1. First thoughts, not great. It feels rushed. The character designs are terrible in my opinion, and motivations feel absent. The original was a futuristic western, and this version felt like it was souring the whole thing for me. Like it was missing that special part of what made Trigun, Trigun. That said, it's not all bad. I didn't hate Vash's new gun, but the series is called Trigun, not Bigun, not Unigun, it's Trigun. Where's the third gun? It's episode 1, sure, but they rushed every other reveal, so I don't know why this one's on layaway. And the intro-outro sequence, absolute banger. It feels like a James Bond opening. It's stylish, it's cool, it's the kind of thing that makes you go, okay, you have my attention, but let's get into episode 2. Episode 2 opens with a recap, which is a confusing choice, because it has not been months since the last episode. We just watched it last week. It feels like padding, which is odd given how quickly they're running through story beats. We also see a photo of young Vash and Knives with Rim, which confused me even more. Why is he carrying that around? How does he have it? Whatever. Vash, Meryl, and Roberto sit in Rosa's bar. Vash has apparently explained everything. His twin brother has been stealing plants from town. Since Vash is his twin, Vash takes the blame. That's why his bounty is 6 million, and why he's been labeled the humanoid typhoon. On the radio, we hear about the Nebraska family having escaped from May City prison. I wonder if they'll show up. Anyways, Rosa turns on Vash, and so does the rest of the town. This mirrors the original episode where the town tries to capture Vash and the mayor hires the Nebraska family. Here, the town decides Vash can be their hero by letting them turn him in so they can buy a new plant. This episode does solidify Vash's character better. He refuses to fight the townsfolk and even drops the line, "I can buy a whole box of donuts for the price of 1 bullet," which is very Vash, even if he never actually eats a donut in this series. At least, I didn't notice. Now, our attention gets turned to the infamous Nebraska family. These two are much different in comparison to their original counterparts. Gulsif, in the original, was a giant-like, towering, hulking beast of a creature, capable of crushing a car by stepping on it, that carried his father around in a small leather pouch that he wore on his chest. Now, Gosif is just an above-average-sized human, still with a fist that can be launched at devastating speeds. Father Nebraska, which is the only name he is known by, has a few more teeth and seems to only care about getting rich and his son's lack of brain cells, which is decreasing too rapidly. The Nebraska family hears Vash is at Janora Rock. Word travels fast for a desert planet with limited infrastructure, but okay. They roll up in a stolen vehicle. Vash is getting confronted at the edge of town by Rosa and 2 other women, when the Nebraska's vehicle crashes into the town because Father Nebraska apparently cannot drive. Vash saves Rosa's son Tonus from being crushed by the vehicle at the last second because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Then, out of nowhere, Vash grabs a Thomas and rides out into the desert. The Nebraska family follows, and then is closely followed by Meryl and Roberto as well. The Nebraska family's ride dies mid-chase. They try to grab Vash, he slips away, and then Meryl, Roberto, and Vash have a quick powwow out in the desert. Then, Father Nebraska decides he's not interested in Vash anymore and he wants to steal the plant and sell it. Sure, flip the script, why not? They go back, steal the plant, and are almost out of town before Vash and the gang show up. And this part had me losing my mind. How did the Nebraska family travel back on foot, steal the plant, go upstairs, downstairs, almost escape, before Vash shows up? It's not teleportation, but it's definitely the plot needed them there first. Rosa tries to stop them, gets swatted, and Vash catches her. Vash then fights Gosif by dodging hydraulic punches. Father Nebraska tries to RPG him, and Vash narrowly escapes death again. Father Nebraska pulls out a gun. Finally, Vash draws his gun and shoots Father Nebraska's bullet out of the air. Then, Vash appeals to their humanity. And I'm sorry, are you serious? These people were serving multiple life sentences and have broken out of prison several times. Humanity is not the lever I would pull here, but the show pulls it. Father Nebraska has a change of heart, returns the plant, vows to go straight, and I'm just sitting here like, what is happening? For a moment, it would seem that Gosif is going to bite the big one when everyone decides to save him. They reconcile, Rosa gives them free drinks, and then these weird honey I blew up the virus creatures attach to Gosif, and he runs out of the bar and explodes. So glad we saved him. Roberto catches Vash trying to leave quietly and confronts him about running from knives. Then, Gosif explodes and the episode ends. At this point, the radio is giving me more useful information than the characters. And I don't actually believe that. I'm being bitter, but there's a disconnect. The show feels like it's moving so fast that the emotional beats don't have time to land. Still, the radio does drop good world building, 7 major cities, and at the center of them, a giant never-ending sandstorm. My first thought was, that's gotta be where Knives is hiding. We'll see. A couple of things this episode I feel does right. The Nebraska family was fairly intolerable in the original anime. Father Nebraska was annoying with an equally annoying voice, and his son being a hulking giant was kind of like a, what, really? moment. However, the decision to make Gosif a taller than average man was something I didn't hate. It worked for me for the most part, but overall it didn't matter in the end because he ends up dust. The fact that this episode very clearly mirrors the original anime was a nice touch, but again, these details are fan service in a way that was only somewhat satisfying to me personally. There is still a long way to go to the end, so I don't want to hold this up. Episode 3 gets wild. We start meeting old familiar names? Faces isn't always accurate. Those oversized virus bomb things are ancient lost technology. Not that lost if they're being used, and they're the work of E.G. Bomber. Roberto explains E.G. likes to watch his work from a safe distance, so if they find him, they can deactivate the devices. So Vash finds him in like 2.5 seconds. Because, of course, he does. A mine goes off, and E.G. clarifies that he's not E.G. Bomber anymore, he's transcended. He's now E.G. the Mine, as in Minefield, because someone gave him a new life title. He also somehow had time to set up an entire minefield during the Nebraska situation, because time is fake in the show. His new design is honestly an improvement over the original, but there's still something about it I don't like. It's hard to explain. EG summons his vehicle and tries to steal the plant. Vash fights him, Vash separates him from the vehicle, Meryl and Roberto rush EG right before the bombs detonate, and EG reveals that there's a button on his back that deactivates the bombs. Man, that was super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Actually, it's gonna be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Oh, really?
Then, piano music starts, which means Knives is here. EG gets giddy, runs to greet his master, Vash chases, and Knives disarms EG literally. Cuts his arms off without even stopping the piano. Vash enters, and Knives traps him in some kind of stasis memory lock. Knives says he can't control his gate yet. Cool. Sure, love being told important lore in a throwaway line. Knives goes to take the plant. Father Nebraska tries to confront him and loses an arm. Knives definitely has an arm thing going on. Rosa tries to confront Knives with two random girls. Knives dispatches them immediately. One girl gets ripped apart so fast that she's still holding Rosa's hands while the rest of her is gone. And this is where the tone shift hits. This is not the fun, playful early 2000s Trigun. This is something else. From my future perspective, this is the point I should have realized that the show was not going to be like the original. My hope that it would somehow become a better version of the original was off base. This is its own thing, and episode 3 makes that very clear. Then, some guy and a random kid show up with a mecha King Kong. Knives goes full Dr. Octopus, except his tendrils are knives. So yes, they made his name literal. Millions Knives. Millions of knives. That's how he's been cutting everyone into ribbons without moving. Knives reaches the top of Genora Rock, hands the plant to his mechanical ape friend, gives a sermon about Sodom and Gomorrah, and destroys the town effortlessly. After the dust settles, everyone except Meryl and Roberto is on the Vash train, including Rosa, because Tonus was injured and lost an arm. Initially, I thought Tonus was dead, and honestly, that would have hit harder, but even then, the show is rushing through the characters so fast that it's hard to truly feel things. And here's the thing. The writing idea is good. Everyone's reaction to this situation makes sense from their perspective. Rosa blames Vash because Knives is Vash's brother. Vash wants to save people and also can't just abandon the town. Meryl and Roberto are observers. That's solid. It's just rushed. As Vash leaves, Meryl confronts him and sees he's smiling. She asks how he can smile, and Vash replies, "Easy, because I don't deserve to cry." And I hated this line. It feels like an emo band lyric. Originally, Vash cried for strangers, for enemies, for people trying to kill him. This version feels like it's trying to be darker, but sometimes it lands as edgier, and that's not the same thing. Vash says he's heading east to July, except the subtitles spell it differently, which feels like another word different from the original, flag planted for no reason. At this point, I'm a quarter into the series and I have major issues. Pacing is terrible, stakes are heavy, but the pacing undercuts that weight because we don't have time to get attached to anyone. It's like watching a show speedrun its own emotional beats. Hopefully, it gets better soon. Episode 4 introduces the iconic Nicholas D. Wolfwood, and honestly, his design is one of the few things this show doesn't completely reinvent for no reason. He's still got the disheveled suit, he's still hauling around a giant cross like it's a normal day of the week, but visually, he's basically Wolfwood. Vash, Meryl, and Roberto are still traveling together, and Meryl and Roberto are giving Vash a ride towards the transport ship so he can keep heading to July. And then Roberto says a line that genuinely made me see red. "What's running through that spiky head of yours?" Spiky? This man's hair has not been spiky a single time in this entire series other than when he was suspended upside down. It's a mop top. It's shaggy. It's got influencer who sells energy drinks energy. But spiky? That's stolen valor. That crossed lines, serious lines for me. I almost turned it off out of pure principle, but I wanted this video to exist, so I kept going. Then, Wolfwood gets hit by their trailer because he's wandering around the desert like an NPC who hasn't loaded in yet. And I'm just saying, that impact should have turned him into paste, bones into dust, sand into a lovely shade of crimson. But nope, They throw him in the car and take him to the nearest building, and shockingly, he's fine. They hand wave it with a tough guy line. "I'm made of tougher stuff," or something in that neighborhood. I didn't write down the exact quote, but the point is, cartoon physics. Now, his look is mostly fine, but I didn't like the voice actor. I can't fully explain why, it just didn't land for me. I honestly think bringing back the original voice actor would have helped anchor this remake a little, but we didn't get that. And surprise, he's not a priest anymore. He's an undertaker, which, sure, why the hell not at this point, right? Wolfwood immediately starts calling Vash Needle Noggin, which, again, the insult doesn't even fit because his hair doesn't look like needles. It's not Needle, it's not Spike, it's Mop, it's Shag, it's distant cousin of Jack Doherty. Stop trying to gaslight me into believing I'm looking at spikes. They stop at this building for help and find a dead couple and a kid hiding in a locker. The second I saw this kid, I said out loud, "That's Zazie the Beast." And yep, it's Zazie. Just like the original, Zazie can control the indigenous life on the planet, specifically the giant sandworms. Zazie uses a worm to swallow the group whole. Then, Wolfwood whips out a new version of the Cross Punisher and cuts the worm in half with a laser. That's new. Also, he hits a genuinely sick little dance move while doing it, which was not on my bingo card. After everything calms down, Zazie approaches Wolfwood and they have a conversation that basically shatters any illusion that Wolfwood might be a good guy. And this is where the pacing drives me insane again. They don't let anything breathe. No mystery, no slow peel back. It's like the show is allergic to suspense. And yes, I know the original series introduced characters and killed them in the same episode sometimes, but the original had a time limit and was doing what it could. Stampede was in production for like 5 years. You're telling me we couldn't wait an episode or two before basically confirming Wolfwood's alignment is complicated. It's like being shot out of a cannon and then the second you land, you have to run a triathlon. No buildup, no pacing, just constant forward momentum. Episode 5 introduces this concept I actually liked. There's a church that worships the plants. That's a genuinely interesting idea for this world. I wish the show had spent more time on it because it's one of the few new additions that feels like it could have added real depth. This episode also brings back Monev the Gale with a new backstory and new design. And look, I'm gonna nerd out for a second because Nightow is a Spider-Man fan, and so am I. Monev is an anagram for Venom. In the original, Monev's design is basically meant to be a dark, Venom-ish counterweight to Vash's red Spider-Man-ish vibe. Stampede takes the concept and throws it straight into the trash. Instead, they go for more of a Ghost Rider vibe, which is a choice. Also, this episode gives the first real glimpse at how ageless Vash is in this version. We start with the kid named Rollo. He overhears his mother talking about him being the next chosen, which scares him enough to run away. Then we jump to the gang arriving at what looks like an abandoned town that doesn't have a plant, but is powered by wind turbines. Shortly after arriving, Monev attacks, relentlessly trying to kill Vash, ignoring everyone else. Then we cut back and learn that Rollo was found by Vash, and Vash tells Rollo that he was tasked with finding him and bringing him back home. Vash tells him it'll be alright and he'll protect him. The lie detector test determined that that was a lie, because Rollo's mother hands him to a doctor who experiments on him, accelerates his growth so fast that he becomes an adult in minutes or hours, armors him up, gives him guns, and sends him back to slaughter his entire hometown and wait for Vash. Present-day Vash realizes Monev is Rollo. Vash apologizes, and just as Rollo is about to end Vash's life, Wolfwood shoots Rollo straight to the head and kills him instantly. Vash gets mad, then kind of just gets over it, and the episode ends. And I had multiple issues with this. 1. Why build relationships just to immediately tear them down? It undercuts the emotional depth. It turns characters into cliff notes on Vash's trauma highway. And 2, besides giving Rollo a reason to hate Vash, tying him into Vash's past like this doesn't feel necessary. And honestly, I think a better idea would have been to have Knives directly involved with what turned Rollo into Mona. That would have made Mona's rage at Vash feel more connected to the central conflict, instead of just being another Vash meets someone, feels bad, they die, speedrun. It feels like the show is throwing too many characters too quickly and expecting them to matter more than they do. Anyway, Episode 6 introduces Legato Blue Summers. If you've seen the original, you know. Colder than cold, weird abilities, walking bad news. But he's not the focus here. Livio is. The setting is a sand steamer, basically a salvaged piece of ship that people used to cross the sand oceans. Meryl and Roberto were going to let Vash and Wolfwood go alone, but Meryl convinces Roberto to come along, and he reluctantly agrees. Vash and Wolfwood get attacked by somebody with similar weapons to Wolfwood, and Wolfwood keeps calling him Livio, trying to talk him down. And weirdly, this episode was a turning point for me. Not because the show suddenly becomes perfect, it doesn't, but because it finally does something smart. It goes into Wolfwood's backstory. We learn he was an orphan, raised in an orphanage run by the plant-worshipping church. Eventually, a kid named Livio arrives, and Wolfwood takes him under his wing. Then, Wolfwood gets chosen for the same kind of treatment Rollo got, except Wolfwood comes out the other side with insane regeneration, as long as he has a special elixir he needs to ingest. His body can get wrecked, and he bounces back fast once he downs his special sauce. This is where the show really starts to connect the dots in a way I actually appreciated. The original Trigun never really explained how these powers worked. Stampede is giving answers, and even though I haven't read through all the manga yet, I only recently got the whole series, the fact that the show puts this level of detail into the characters shows a commitment I did not expect. The Bad Lad gang overruns the sand steamer, which isn't a huge plot point, but it's a fun cameo. Although again, it's completely lost on anyone who hasn't seen the original. Wolfwood manages to reach Livio emotionally, and it triggers Livio's trauma. Livio basically loses it and offs himself, except he also has regen like Wolfwood. The difference is, Livio doesn't need the elixir, his body just does it naturally. Livio falls off the sand steamer and gets left behind for now, and that's episode 6. Episode 7 continues the sand steamer plot, and now things actually start ramping up. Legato and Zazie follow close behind the sand steamer. Legato uses telepathy to change the sand steamer's course. New destination, Wolfwood's old home, the orphanage. And as if that's not enough, they reveal the sand steamer has a giant laser attached to it.
You know, I have one simple request, and that is to have sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Originally used to clear asteroids. So let's recap the situation. We have a sand steamer with a laser cannon aimed at an orphanage on a collision course. This is a no-win situation, and yet they manage to win. Vash does some more impressive gung fu, followed up by Vash and Wolfwood not skipping leg day, lifting the laser just in time before it fires. It misses, the cannon falls apart. Wolfwood grabs a red-hot door handle to reach the engine room and stop the ship, while Vash talks to the plant powering the sand steamer and begs it to help shut down the ship. And we get another big reveal. Vash is a plant, or at least plant adjacent in a way that becomes very clear when he interacts with the plant directly. Also, I wrote down predictions while watching this episode based on how earlier episodes played out, and I'm happy to report I was completely wrong. I thought Vash was going to plead with the Bad Lads to help stop the sand steamer like in the original series, but that's not what happens, and I appreciated that. Predictable shows are not fun. Episode 8 is where the show really starts to bring things into focus. We go back to shortly after Vash and Knives land on the planet. Vash gets away from Knives and gets taken in by a nearby ship that landed with minimal issues. This brings back Brad, a character from the original. In the original, Brad got done dirty. He was basically collateral damage for being in love. In Stampede, Brad isn't great, but he's not terrible. He's kind of an amalgam between his original character and a character named Steve, who was definitely not good. But he's abrasive towards Vash at first, and he's with a new character, Luida. who runs the ship and is compassionate and caring. They lock Vash up at first and explain he's an independent, meaning he can survive outside of a pod and wasn't created through cloning. Most plants are cloned from an original cell, but on rare occasions, plants give birth to other plants. Over the months, Luita is more trusting. Brad continues to be skeptical. Then, the ship's plant has an issue that spreads to the other plants on board. Vash begs to help. Luita agrees because they're probably going to die anyways. Vash repairs the plant. Luita begins sending Vash and Brad to other ships to help repair their plants, and over time, Brad and Vash become friends. We see Vash's slower aging. We see him get his coat as a gift from Luita's people. Then, Brad and Luita learn the truth. Vash and Knives were responsible for the ship's crashing. Knives survived, and Vash lied about him being dead. Vash leaves the ship to confront Knives and abandons the coat because he doesn't feel worthy of it. And this episode drew me in. The story started to finally make sense. It slowed down. It gave me something to chew on. But I also had questions. Why did humans move off the ships? How did Vash lose his arm? What's happening in the present? And why is Knives stealing plants? And with only 4 episodes left, I didn't feel like we'd get answers. At the end of episode 8, Vash finds Knives on another plant ship, and episode 9 picks up immediately, where Vash confronts Knives. This is where Knives finally reveals the name change, which is cool. They also explain why Knives hates humanity. Humans treat plants like tools, use them until they're exhausted, and discard them. Knives decides he's taking all the plants to protect them from humans. He also shows a new ability. Blades from his hands and feet, kind of like X-23 from X-Men, and he dispatches the guards protecting the plants. He tells Vash he's not Nye anymore, he's Millions Knives. Then he hands Vash a gun and tells him to kill the remaining humans to prove his loyalty. Vash refuses. Luita shows up, tries to help Vash, and Knives goes to execute her. Vash tackles him, they struggle, Knives pushes Vash off, then tries to choke Luita to death. And that's what triggers Vash's ability. A black hole-like singularity appears and starts swallowing everything. Bodies start to get sucked in, and Vash just stares into it, stunned. Knives stops trying to kill Luita and cuts off Vash's arm, and the arm basically absorbs itself and disappears. Afterward, Luita comforts Vash. Knives approaches again, and Vash pulls the gun and threatens him to keep away. Knives then leaves with Conrad, the scientist guy who later experiments on the gung-ho guns. Then we cut to the present. Brad fits Vash with a new arm because the sand steamer incident damaged the old one. Brad and Luita show Roberto, Meryl, and Wolfwood their arboretum, earth plants, and explain that they've spent 150 years trying to turn no man's land into a green paradise so humans don't have to rely on plants as much. They've used cryo sleep pods to extend their lifespans so that they can see the project through. And honestly, genius move. It answers, how are you still alive? And gives a believable goal. At the end, Sazi infiltrates the ship, abducts Meryl and Roberto, and takes them to Knives' lair to lure Vash. Wolfwood and Vash go after them. Destination, July. And this is where my opinion really started to shift. The show started throwing answers at me, and I actually wanted to see what came next. Episode 10 is a roller coaster. The show starts cramming answers into every available second. Meryl and Roberto wake up in Knives' lair. Conrad, William Conrad, explains his role and what Knives has been doing. Knives has been trying to create a human-plant hybrid. After years of experiments, Conrad perfected one by cloning Knives with human DNA. Conrad says his goals originally aligned more with Brad and Luita, make no man's land inhabitable. But instead of changing the planet, Conrad wanted to change humans through experimentation so they could survive anything. Then we get a deeper explanation of plants, something the original never fully laid out. Plants have portals that let them tap into a resource, a ley line, for water, electricity, air, etc. When they lose the ability to connect, they die. They don't just provide resources, that connection is life itself for them. Knives learned that if you gather enough plants in one place, you can open a portal big enough to travel through to the source, or the core, and whoever controls that would have access to unimaginable power. But only one plant can open the gateway: Vash. Then Elendira, one of Conrad's experiments, escapes and attacks. She mortally wounds Roberto before being stopped. Roberto dies, but not before giving Meryl his signature weapon, a Derringer, which is paying homage to Meryl's nickname in the original, Derringer Meryl. But it gives those vibes of things fans were never really curious about. You ever wonder how she got the Derringer, which gave her the nickname? Well, now you know. Also, I didn't know this until I dug a bit, but Roberto's full name is Roberto De Niro, and that made me laugh way harder than it probably should have. Meanwhile, Wolfwood and Vash are traveling to July. They run into the crazy guy from episode 1. Vash takes a bullet, and he shows Wolfwood his scarred body, the physical burden of refusing to kill people who tried to kill him. They get into Knives' compound, find Meryl and Roberto's body. Vash leaves Meryl to confront Knives, and then Knives does something I did not expect. He drops himself and Vash into a giant vat of water. Episode 11 is insane, and I'm going to sum it up as cleanly as I can. Vash and Knives are submerged in this water vat. Conrad watches through glass. Knives infiltrates Vash's mind and basically pulls an Inception move, making Vash forget everyone else and replacing them with Knives to gain absolute trust. He really pulled a Tsukishima from Bleach. Once Knives has Vash locked in, Vash starts turning into a tree? He connects to all the surrounding plants in the vat and impregnates them? The whole sequence is confusing visually, but the result is clear. The structure starts to transform into a massive tree-like form shaped like a female figure, and a portal opens, the gateway to the core, the source all plants tap into. Meryl eventually reaches Conrad's room and pleads through the glass for Vash to wake up. Roots spread, the room gets taken over, everything is growing. Episode 12 is the finale. Knives is about to take control of the core. Meryl is about to get crushed by Roots. Hope is basically dead. Until Meryl gets through to Vash with one desperate cry. Suddenly, Knives is pulled back through the portal into the drained chamber. Vash is there holding what looks like the core Knives wanted. And now, Vash has his iconic spiked hair. He tells Knives it's over. Knives disagrees, obviously. They fight, both now able to control their abilities. The battle moves outside. They form wings, fly over July, and attack each other through the city. July authorities fire on them, trying to knock them down. The core destabilizes. Vash forces it to merge with his gun and then himself, creating the Angel Arm cannon. Vash flies up into the atmosphere. Knives follows. Vash tries to direct the blast away from the planet to avoid killing everyone. But Knives won't let go of the power. So, Knives flies directly into the line of fire. As he gets closer, his body breaks apart and disintegrates. Vash falls back to the planet. We cut away to Wolfwood and Meryl having escaped and watching from afar. Vash hits the ground. A massive explosion wipes July off the face of the planet. And then we get a time skip. Meryl visits the crater where July used to be. Zazie visits Meryl and says they'll be watching her closely, and that more humans are on the way from Earth. As Meryl leaves the site, she speaks with someone over the radio, who talks about her new partner who's ready to pal around with her. That partner, Millie Thompson. I'm not gonna lie, I got goosebumps even writing that. That's the kind of reveal that hits old fans right in the bloodstream. There's also a joke thrown in there that if Meryl isn't careful, she'll end up being pushed onto the insurance society, which I felt like was a good tongue-in-cheek moment. Vash's bounty goes from 6 million to 60 billion due to July's destruction. Then we cut somewhere else. Long-haired Vash in normal clothes being called Eric's, presumably with no memories. We then see a spaceship in orbit discussing the planet's events and how they'll investigate the culprits. And the show ends. And my immediate reaction was basically, holy shit, there were so many twists. Did I like the show? The spiked hair, the angel arm, Millie, Vash being Eric's. Holy shit, did I like this? So let's breathe and reflect. Before I start praising what the show does right near the end, I need to address the big thoughts I kept circling back to while writing this. Trigun Stampede is a wild roller coaster. The original series used dramatic irony and mystery early on. The viewers slowly learns who Vash really is, and that pull of mystery helps carry the opening stretch. Stampede lays most of its cards on the table immediately, and the pacing is shot from episode 1. They cram an insane amount of information into the show without giving it enough time to land. It feels like the writers wanted this intricate web of relationships that all revolve around Vash, but the problem is, motivations and actions don't always make sense. Take Knives for example. He crashes all the ships with the apparent intention of killing humans. But why? In Stampede, it feels like he gets a god complex in record time. Plants are superior, humans deserve to die. And that attitude develops within a year. It doesn't feel earned. In the original anime, Knives' hatred had a clearer trigger. Fear of more humans like Steve, abusive, hateful, alcoholic, who despised Vash and Knives for being different. Knives' genocide plan was still evil, but it had a coherent emotional root. In Stampede, it sometimes feels like it's just because reasons. Another example is Rosa's sudden change of heart in episode 2. She clearly knows Vash's bounty situation. Her bar is covered in wanted posters, but she only flips into turn him in mode after hearing the 6 million number, even though she calls him the town's savior. It feels like the characters do things because the writers need them to do things to move the plot, not because the decisions naturally flow from who they are. And the show tries hard to get emotional reactions without giving us enough time to actually connect. I felt bad for Tonus losing his arm. I questioned why Rollo got stapled into Vash's past. Even Roberto's death didn't hit me the way it should have, because I barely knew him. I know he was a mentor to Meryl, and he was wise beyond his years. That's something, but I didn't know him. Wolfwood's death in the original was devastating. It shook the characters. It shook the viewer. It mattered. Now, despite all of that, there are qualities to love. You can see the detail in the world, the effort to replicate No Man's Land, the respect for Nightow's creation, and the ending does a solid job of pulling the story together into something that actually works. Instead of starting where the original started, they tell the story of how Vash earned the full 60 billion bounty. A bigger, more grandiose path to the same iconic status. The Insurance Society being framed as a punishment for Meryl is a nice touch. I also liked seeing how the powers were given to the gung-ho guns and why. And while I didn't need the full plant explanation, it was genuinely cool to finally get answers beyond plants are important because survival. Those answers and buildups are good, they just fall short because of the pacing and some glaring early mistakes. In the end, Trigun Stampede doesn't live up to the storytelling and gravitas of the original. It lives in the original's shadow. And that's not me pretending the original was flawless. It wasn't. I've rewatched it within the last year, and it still holds up for me, but it absolutely has issues. Stampede's best redeeming quality is in the last few episodes. They finally give you something to sink your teeth into. They give old fans revelations for why things are different, and they tie it into a neat bow. If they'd slowed down even a little, built motives more clearly, let characters breathe, let relationships actually form, there would have been so much more to love. The emotional connections could have been real instead of speed ran. So, is Trigun Stampede worth watching? I still say yes. Even if you're a hardcore fan of the original, it's worth checking out. If nothing else, you might appreciate the original even more, or you might find yourself enjoying something new. It's darker than the original, and honestly, that kind of tone is a version of Trigun I can see working. It just doesn't feel like the same Trigun to me. Either way, I'm looking forward to watching and critiquing Stargaze. If you haven't seen Trigun Stampede and you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. And if you haven't watched the original Trigun, what the hell are you waiting for? Anyway, thanks for watching. If you made it to this point, I appreciate your time and patience. More videos coming soon, but until then, I'll be here. Catch you in the next one.